Hello, and welcome to Crucible of Words for more dedicated Legacy action. For today's midweek meta deck, we are playing Enrichetta's Legacy Challenge winning Doomsday deck. So, this deck revolves around the card Doomsday, where we search our library and graveyard for 5 cards and exile the rest, and then we put the chosen cards in any order on top of our library and we lose half our life total rounded up. So, essentially what we're doing is we're stacking a pile with Thassa's Oracle so we can then do some cyclers or whatever and just cast this and win with the you win the game trigger. That's the only way we win the game here. So we've got 3 tutors to try and find our Doomsday. We've also got a bunch of cantrips here, a bunch of fast mana to power it out, and then protection in the form of Dazes, Force of Wills and a couple of Thoughtseizes, alongside the One Ring. Now the One Ring is a really interesting piece of technology for this deck. What this allows us to do is buy a turn where we have this running, and we buy that turn, put a counter on it, draw a card. Then we untap, we cast Doomsday, then we can immediately draw 2 cards into our Doomsday pile, and we're basically just guaranteed to win at that point. So, pretty interesting technology. I have played a One Ring build before, but it was not straight blue-black like this, and I had a little bit of trouble with it. Obviously, Doomsday is not the easiest deck in the world to play, but I felt like that previous list I ran needed to be a little bit more. I think it was a 4-color Doomsday list as well. It was running green for Veil of Summer and white for Teferi. I think it was just a bit too much. Whereas this looks a lot more streamlined and I can see how it won a challenge. And I think this is a really sweet looking build. I'm not exactly great at Doomsday, so bear with me on this one. But I'm looking forward to giving it a whirl. The mana base is interesting. We have 1 basic. We have the Cavern of Souls for uncountable Thassa's Oracle. A bunch of fetch lands. We have the Watery Grave as our 5th underground sea. So we're very deep into the blue-black here. We're essentially a blue deck with a black combo card. That's the way to think of Doomsday generally. So we kind of got to play these things to get us there. Sideboard wise, we've got some counter spells, 4 Force of Negation. We've got a couple of Sheoldreds, and we need to sort of pivot into a slightly different plan along with these 4 Murktides. So we can actually just play a little bit of a fair game. We have Darkblast because Orcish Bowmaster is pretty good against Doomsday. And Darkblast is a very clean answer for it that we can rebuy every turn until it's gone. I'm a massive fan of Darkblast as a Magic the Gathering card. It's one of my favourite all-time removal spells, I think. And it makes a lot of sense in this deck. Got a bit of Graveyard Hate as well. Some creature counter spell here, so we can use this against things like the Initiative and slow them down a bit. And we've got a bounce spell to pick up anything that kind of slips through. So yeah, that's the deck. I did record quite a while back a Turbo Doomsday League with a Doomsday expert, so I will link that in the description below if you want to go and check that one out. It was a very good and informative experience. Obviously, I don't necessarily remember everything I learned from that one because I don't play Doomsday very often, but hopefully we can do them proud today. Alright, remember to like and subscribe, and let's get into playing this league with Enrichetta's Legacy Challenge winning Doomsday deck. If you're looking to play Legacy on MTGO like me, why not try Card Hoarder? They're a rental service that I personally use, and I found them better than other rental services that I've used in the past. So why not give them a try? Right, into round 1, our opening hand does not have any mana sources, so it's a pretty easy mulligan. This is a turn 1 Doomsday with Force of Will backup, so I guess I'll keep that one. And what are we going to throw away here? Probably the Thoughtseize. Like, we'd like the Ponder in case we get Thoughtseized. Although, are we going to Force of Will that if they try and Thoughtseize us? Maybe. So there should be a turn 2 kill, provided I can work out how to construct that pile. Lotus Petal and a Mox. And another Lotus Petal. A Ponder. So this is feeling like the Epic Storm to me. That's where you're most likely to see this collection of Magic the Gathering cards. Could be like other Storm variants, but certainly feels most like the Epic Storm. I decided not to shuffle. Alright. Let's crack this, go and get ourselves an Underground Sea. Let's cast this Cabal Ritual. Let's cast Doomsday. We have double Force of Will to protect this. Alright, now we have to work out how we actually win this one. So, we need a Thassa's Oracle, otherwise we can't win the game. Do we think our opponent has counter magic? Like, we need another land anyway, so we may as well make that a Cavern of Souls. And then just 2 Street Wraith. Problem is we don't have a way of drawing multiple cards. I guess we could put a Brainstorm in there. So we could Brainstorm, and Lotus Petal for our 2. So we have Brainstorm, Lotus Petal, Cavern of Souls, Thassa's Oracle, and a Cycler. That doesn't actually empty our library out there, does it? Or we could Brainstorm into Lion's Eye Diamond, and so we don't want this pile. So we go down to 5 cards, then we go down to 3 cards, and we go down to 2 cards. Yeah, no. So the original pile we did does work. We want an Edge of Autumn in there as well. So the problem is we need a second land. So if we put some cyclers in here, and we play the Lion's Eye Diamond, we can always just take a slightly slower pile because we have these 2 Force of Wills. So something like this. Alright, so Oracle on the bottom, then it's Cavern, then it's these 2, then it's Brainstorm. Alright. I would like to Thoughtseize us. That's fine. We've got Force of Will and Daze. So they're probably best off taking the Daze here, but we have a blue card on top of our library. So we'll have a Force of Will this turn and a Force of Will next turn. I'm taking a Ponder. That's to stop us digging into our pile. Right, so there's our Brainstorm. So we can cast this Brainstorm, but it's not going to get us anywhere this turn. So next turn, we can win the game. We're just going to hold 2 forces up and hope that's enough. Our opponent is casting a Burning Wish here. I think we are incentivized to say no to Burning Wish. Veil of Summer. I guess we do some more Force of Willing. Alright, this means we don't get to win on this next turn though. Which could be awkward for us. There is a Street Wraith. So we have Street Wraith will draw us into the Echo. Not the Echo, the Edge of Autumn. And then we have the Cavern and stuff. So we have to pass again. Our opponent's doing some stuff over here. I think I've worked out the pile we should have done now, which involved Lion's Eye Diamond and Consider. That lets us Brainstorm and then shuffle, get rid of one of the cards in that pile. Okay. And Chromox, where is this going to pitch? We do have the game on our next turn, but is this going to be a Galvanic Relay? A Burning Wish. Can't do anything about this. Consign to Oblivion. Which one is this? Return target non-opponent to his own hand. Target opponent discards 2 cards. That shouldn't matter here. We are going to draw our whole library this turn. So we cycle this. Tap for blue. Play this. On Wizard. Tap this for blue. Cycle this. Pitching this. 0 cards in library. So if they bounce our Thassa's Oracle, it doesn't matter. Maybe this was not the quickest way to have won this game. We passed the turn a lot. But we did come away with the victory. This won't work because we have 0 cards in our library. So we still win the game. Alright. So this looks like a Storm variant, which means we're going to want things like Force of Negation in this matchup. What are we supposed to be getting rid of? So maybe, probably not going to have time to do like the One Ring type stuff in this matchup. Although the One Ring is pretty good at just buying us a turn because they can't. Although they've already shown us Consign to Oblivion, which is Cut to Ribbons is the other one, isn't it? Actually, I'm thinking of. So what are we doing with these Force of Negations is the question. We definitely want them, but what comes out in exchange? Is it the One Rings just because these are slow? Well, this is just another payoff where if we have a little bit of fast mana, we can put a One Ring into play, and that's probably going to be good. This is very good with our Force of Negations. We can probably trim on some cantrippers, maybe? Maybe it is supposed to be the One Ring. It is very slow. Maybe we'd rather get rid of Ponders than some of these cantrippers, actually. Because we're not going to have the most amount of time to work with here. So maybe trimming down on these just so that when we do get there, we can just go through our pile straight away. I don't think this is a keeper. We don't have access to Doomsday, and that's the only way that our deck functions. No cantrips, but we do have 2 bits of permission and an ability to cast the Doomsday. Is that good enough? I don't think it is. Alright, we can keep this one. So we're keeping this land. Get rid of a Personal Tutor. Get rid of one of these Dark Rituals. So now we have Personal Tutor that we can cast. And then sort of carry on with our Doomsday lines. We've got Force of Negation with a Ponder to pitch to it. There's a Thoughtseize. So we're probably losing the Personal Tutor here. Unless our opponent has got some Lotus Petals and a way of winning the game this turn. Alright. Not a terrible draw for us, that one. So I think we are in Ponder mode here. We're looking for more mana sources. Like a Force of Will doesn't hurt. So we've got to draw 2 of these cards. So we're putting the LED, then the land and the Force. So we'll draw the Force this turn. And then we'll draw the land next turn. And then we can use our Personal Tutor to find a Thoughtseize or something if you want to go that route. We've taken quite a defensive posture here. There's a Ponder from our opponent. Right, just another Ponder from our opponent. Okay, so there's this land. We don't really want the Lion's Eye Diamond underneath it. Do we want to Personal Tutor? I don't think we do. I think that is going to be a blue card for one of our forces. So we're going to pass and we're going to crack our fetch land and take a random draw. Okay, they can't take us off a force action here. They can take away our Doomsday. But we have a Personal Tutor so we can then go and get another one. Right, we took our Doomsday, so they're going to force us into Personal Tutoring once we find another mana source. Let's crack this for a Underground Sea. Okay, so let's play out a land here. Cast a Personal Tutor. Put Doomsday on top of our library. And pass. Another turn Brainstorm from our opponent. Alright, a Lotus Petal. Our opponent has begun. How are they going to ruin our day here? A Brainstorm. Okay. That's not our fight. We're trying to fight over like a Beseech the Mirror or a critical piece of mana that takes them up to Beseech the Mirror mana, or a Burning Wish. And a Ponder. Okay, so it feels like we're going to get to put this Doomsday on the stack. Our opponent has done a lot of sculpting here. 3 Ponders and 2 Brainstorms. Oh, they're just scooping it up. Okay, I guess that stops us having to make the Doomsday pile there. So there's lots of different sort of piles you can make with Doomsday. And we opted for quite a slow one there. We could have done Brainstorm, Lion's Eye Diamond, Consider, and using our Ponder. And we need another one for that, wouldn't we? Alright, let's not think about it too much. Let's go to round 2. We are 1-0. We're on the play for round 2. We have the things we want. We're just requiring 1 additional mana, so I will keep this one. We've got a redraw in the Street Wraith as well. And we obviously have this Brainstorm. Depends how much protection and disruption we're going to need, because we can always try and find another blue card. And then cast our Brainstorm with Daze and Force of Will available. But we'll see. Right, we're underway. I don't think we are cracking our fetch land. And I guess if we cycle the Street Wraith now and we find a Ponder, we might want to cast that. So I think we should... Okay, that's also good. Let's cast a Doomsday. So I think we're looking at something... We don't have Ideas Unbound, which always makes your life easier. So, Lion's Eye Diamond, Thassa's Oracle, Cantrip here, and we want a Ponder, or is it... I guess we probably want a Cavern of Souls in there. And then... Is it a Consider if we're doing this? Although Lion's Eye Diamond does turn off our Force of Wills. We don't need those if we've already got our spells going. So maybe we're just on an Edge of Autumn pile here. Edge of Autumn, Street Wraith. We don't need this Lion's Eye Diamond. We can just take this other Street Wraith. So we're going to go to 8. So we can afford to Street Wraith here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we use our Brainstorm, and that's enough. This on the bottom, and the Cavern, and some cantrips. And then we win the game next turn. And we still got some protection as well. If we had Ideas Unbound, then we could do a pile that wins on this turn. Like the turn we do it, because we could Brainstorm into the... We could get a Lion's Eye Diamond and just put the Ideas Unbound on the stack and get that going. Okay, this could be interesting. It's going to be a Chalice of the Void, Syrian Spirit Guide, a Blood Moon. We cannot afford to let that one resolve. That would have been lights out. But some important information we're getting off our opponent. Chalice of the Void, where X is 0. So that's going to shut off our Lotus Petal line. Interesting. So we cycle once into another cycler, we cycle once into another cycler, we cycle once into another cycler, we end up with Cavern of Souls and not actually our win condition. So this is pretty awkward for us. If they've got another Blood Moon, we can't win. Because we needed this mana from our Lotus Petal, we can't actually cast the Brainstorm now. So we have to pass here and hope they don't play another Blood Moon or kill us. That Chalice to 0 was pretty clutch. A Goblin Rabblemaster. How much damage does this do to us? Just the 1 this turn. We can cycle for 4, so we should be okay. We'll fire this off because it gets us through our pile slightly quicker. Pay 2 life. Got 1 card left in our pile. And Wizard. Blue. Blue. Sacrifice this land. Draw our Thassa's Oracle. Win the game. Alright. Sideboard-wise against Mono Red Prison. So we're going to want some counter spells for scary prisony things. That's probably it. Maybe there's some world where we want something like a Sheoldred. Because Sheoldred allows us to just play a guy that's going to be good against most of the guys that they have. We'll still lose to our initiative things. On the draw, we don't want these Thoughtseizes. We only want them on the play. The Dazes get a lot worse as well, so I think we can probably trim those. Alright, I think this is where I want to be. We can't really allow a Blood Moon to enter the battlefield. I guess we could board in the one-of Borrower as an off chance of being able to bounce it. This just requires mana. We have a counter spell for their Blood Moon, so I think we can allow this. We also have the natural mana to cast the Doomsday. It's going to be slightly slow though, is the only thing. So I don't think we can afford to spend our Force of Negation on things that aren't Blood Moon. Makes the Moon will rock our world pretty hard though. A Trinisphere. I said we can't afford to spend it, but I don't think we can afford to allow a Trinisphere to happen, because then we just don't get to play the game. If their follow-up is a Blood Moon, we're going to be in trouble. Let's go and get ourselves Underground Sea. Let's just ponder. Dark Ritual does allow us to Doomsday next turn. So, Cavern of Souls, then the Edge, then the Ritual. And then we've already got a way of getting into the pile next turn. Put Blood Moon here. How do we beat that? With great difficulty, I imagine. So, Lotus Petals can help here. Our Underground Sea is probably just getting thrown to the Edge of Autumn soon. Or maybe not that soon. I believe we have lost this game. But if our opponent's just got prison pieces, then maybe we can get lucky enough to... Because if we just get a Lotus Petal and can put the Dark Ritual on the stack, that can cast a Doomsday, and then we might be able to find our way through using Lotus Petals. Well, that's going to be difficult with the Trinisphere, for sure. But we have mana. And most of our draw effects are free, because they're just cyclers. So they won't count as spells under Trinisphere. Chalice of the Void on 0. That will do. That shuts off our Lotus Petal line. Okay. Thoughtseize is on the play. Maybe want some Dazes back in just to have the maximum ways of interrupting a Blood Moon. But then what are we removing? Are we just going slightly slower? Removing Personal Tutors? We can probably remove one Thassa's Oracle actually. I do like the One Ring here though. Let's try something like this. Alright, this hand seems great. We have 2 cantrips. We don't know if we're going to have 2 cantrips. down the line though. So we're going to want this Thassa's Oracle. We're going to want a basic island. Oh, snow-covered island. That's why I can't find it when I'm looking alphabetically. Alright. So it's a bit bigger. So we want the Thassa's Oracle, we want the island. We could put a fetch on top, but then if they do manage to resolve a Blood Moon somehow, then that's not really going to help us very much. So we've got... Because the thing with the fetch is you can use it to shrink the pile. So let's say we put... not Watery Grave. A Scalding Tarn in there. So we can draw the Scalding Tarn, play the Scalding Tarn, and then we can cast a Brainstorm, or we can cast a Consider, which will shred the next card down. So we just put some cantrips in, is probably fine. Just like Street Wraith and Edge of Autumn. Okay, this on the bottom. Oh no, we're supposed to put the island on the bottom. Oh, is there an undo? Click the wrong one. Oh no. That's a real pain. Although we can still work this out right if we just fetch at the right time. Okay, the undo button does work. Okay, so we put the island on the bottom, then the Oracle, then Street Wraith, Scalding Tarn. And we play out our Lotus Petal in case there's a chalice for 0. So next turn we can consider a way and then just cantrip our way through. I think I've assembled a pile that wins us the game here. We just need to stop one thing our opponent does. It's unlikely they'll be able to do 2 things that wreck us here. We don't care about Chalice anymore. Ratchet Bomb. This will blow up our Lotus Petal, which will stop us from winning the game next turn. So I think we just say no to this. And then if I've correctly made my pile here, we go Consider, put this in the bin, draw this, crack this, which gives us the Thassa's Oracle, play this, crack this for the island, put the Oracle into play. This is only our second spell of the turn, so they can't have anything like a Mindbreak Trap to beat us here. I suppose they could have Simon Spirit Guide Pyroblast. They didn't, they? I don't think the prison decks tend not to run Pyroblast as a general rule because they're trying to jam chalices down people's throats. But I don't know if there's a pile that we can do on the resources we had that would play around the Pyroblast, but you'd probably have to ask someone who knows what they're doing more than me. But nevertheless, we are 2-0. Let's go to round 3. Alright, our opening hand for, excuse me, round 3. We just need to find a little bit more mana so we can keep this. We've got some protection going on. We've got a cantrip already, so we can get into our pile whenever we need. I'm okay with this. Our opponent has cycled a Street Wraith. Are they playing Doomsday or are they playing Death Shadow? We might not find out this turn. An island and a ponder. Interesting. So this could still be a shadow that's got like a Cabal Ritual, so it can just play this basic land and have a good time with it. But who knows? Lion's Eye Diamond, you say? Lion's Eye Diamond. That's quite the Magic the Gathering card. Let's ponder. This isn't quite what we're after, is it? We need some more mana. So I think we're gonna... Like, we could take 2 cantrips and just kind of sculpt our way through. Is that gonna be better than just trying to draw a land here? So if we put Consider at the bottom, then the Street Wraith, then a ponder. Next time we can crack a fetch and then get a ponder off. You see 3 new cards. When then we'll have 2 cantrips in hands and a Lion's Eye Diamond. So we should just be able to win the game as soon as we cast the Doomsday. Obviously, the one caveat to that is our Force of Wills doing stuff. Alright, feels like we might be in a mirror here, which is bad for me because our opponent's going to be better at the deck than I am. Personal Tutor. Is this the one we fight over? I don't think it is the one we fight over. There's a Doomsday from our opponent. Okay, so more counter magic might be in order here. Let's crack this so we see maximum amount of cards. We don't want that Consider that was on top. Ponder, the One Ring, Flooded Strand. So we found the other mana we're looking for. So I guess we put the ring on top, then the ponder. No, then the Flooded Strand, then the ponder. And then we draw the Flooded Strand. Next turn, do we think our single Force of Will is going to be good enough, or should we try and ponder into land and something else? Because we can Street Wraith and then do the ponder if we want to. But I think we're just going to hold as we are because we know that next turn we can Doomsday and then we can crack Lion's Eye Diamond in response to 2 cycles. So we get to draw 2 cards with 3 mana in our pool. So we can like consider cycle, win the game. This is a Brainstorm before they cast a Doomsday. That's something. Daze can potentially mess us up here as well. Well, they're not going for it now. It's interesting. Let's see if we can be the Doomsday we want to see in the world. Alright, so there is a Daze from our opponent. Now we can fight over this and try and win the game. I think it's worth going. Alright, so we're just in. So we have Thassa's Oracle. We have the mana in hand. We just need to get through our pile. So we want Consider. And then we just want some cyclers. We don't have an additional cycler we can find here. So maybe I'll put Doomsday as the last card. Try and do a pile with 2. With 1 card in it. Right, so Doomsday goes on the bottom. Then the Oracle. Then a couple of cyclers. Then the Consider. So the whole priority, we will cycle this. And I'm just trying to think, if we cycle this, we won't have it to cast a Doomsday at the end of this chain if it goes wrong. We don't actually need to cast a Doomsday, right? We just got a bunch of cyclers. So let's just cast Consider. I'm assuming our opponent doesn't have interaction because of the Daze went through. So we put this into our graveyard. And we draw this. We cycle this. And then we play the Oracle. Alright, our opponent is cracking their fetch land. That doesn't fill me with a great amount of joy. I feel we had to go here because our opponent sculpted so much and we know that they've got Doomsday coming any second. Alright, our opponent's brainstorming. Take the wheel, Jesus. As they say. What is going on here? I just wanted to show us they had nothing but rituals. Okay, so how are we supposed to win the mirror? Probably with lots of disruption and Sheoldred the Apocalypse. Let's put Sheoldred in. Maybe we just turn into the control. Board in like all these weird things. How does Subtlety work? Subtlety is pretty good here. Am I just going to be like trying to do something really weird here? Boarding out the Doomsdays and the Oracles, and we're just going to play a bad control deck. We could have like 1 Oracle, 1 Doomsday in our deck. And then aside from that, just play like a bad control deck. That honestly sounds fine to me. And we can strip out the Cabal Rituals and a Dark Ritual. Is that alright? We want to be able to make our Sheoldred is the problem. So we kind of need the fast mana for that. We could bring back in fast mana and just say no to the combo completely. I don't know if this is right. And some people probably thinking, what are you doing? But if we have these... So we have the fast mana so we can just power out a Sheoldred or a One Ring. So this is what we're trying to power out. And then the rest of our deck is just trying to stop what our opponent's doing. I think we probably need a Brazen Borrower here, actually. So we probably lose one of these Cabal Rituals. So we need that to bounce our opponent's Sheoldred. I might have done a very silly thing or a very smart thing. And I don't really know which. I think on the play, being the aggressor makes sense. But on the draw, maybe we just play sort of blue-black control. This isn't the one, is it? I think we mulligan this. I think we keep this, though. So we have the Force that we'd like here. I think it's probably just the Lotus Petal that goes. And we're just going to play a control game. We have lots of blue cards to draw into. We can get Thoughtseize on turn 1. Nothing. Blue card? Not a blue card. Alright, I'll just play out this Underground Sea, I think. Another Underground Sea from our opponent. and a Ponder. Sure, we allow that one. What would be funny is if we've both boarded into just like control decks and we just sort of sit there looking at each other. And it turns out that we've both made horrible mistakes. Dark Ritual would be nice if we can get the One Ring going. They chose not to shuffle off that Ponder. Sure. Blue card. It is a blue card. I think I'd rather hold up double Force, because all we're looking to do at the moment is just make land drops and play the One Ring. And then untap with the One Ring, and then the game is not won, but it's heavily in our favour. And then eventually we can win the game. Right, it feels like our opponent is about to put a Doomsday onto the stack. A Doomsday. I like the fact that we can hard cast Force of Negation next turn. But Force Will can hit a Sheoldred. So I think we're doing Force pitching Ponder. And if we have to fight again, then we fight again. But now we just get to hold up the Force of Negation. Subtlety, okay, that's pretty interesting. So we've got 2 forces again. Alright, let's go and get ourselves some Underground Seas. I imagine I'm going to find this game a lot easier to play than the Doomsday pile ones. Whether or not we win remains to be seen, but I know how to counter spells and draw cards. A Daze. We cannot pay. Let's try another Force. Alright, so if we draw a land, then I'm pretty happy. Come on, deck. I believe in you. Maybe I shouldn't have believed in you. But we have a threat. We can start clocking our opponent now. And then by the time they get round to putting a Doomsday on the stack, that's going to be bad news. However, this is our only real answer to Sheoldred. So if they just drop a Sheoldred on us, that could be a bit awkward. There's a Sheoldred. So bouncing this straight away isn't actually a very good idea. I'd rather wait until we had a counterspell or something for it. Alright. So now we've drawn the counterspell. I think we'll bounce this so our opponent doesn't gain any life. We're hoping that our Daze is good enough to stop this. They probably will just replay it straight away. And maybe we get in with the Daze. Have we played this one perfectly? Possibly. But they have the Force of Will. Alright, it's possible to make no mistakes and still lose. I don't believe we can beat the Sheoldred unless we draw Murktide Regent. Go in. No, we're not winning this one. Okay, so they had the Sheoldreds and the Doomsdays. That's kind of interesting. So I think for this game we want to be able to do our combo thing. So how many slots is that going to require? I think we only need 1 Thassa's Oracle. One of these. That's a lot of slots. We probably don't need the Subtleties. I think we do want the Sheoldreds. Our opponent definitely showed how useful it is just to have yet another Haymaker. Daze is obviously better on the play than on the draw. Are we shredding just some of our Ponder type action? Is that a wild idea? Let me trim a couple of those and just go a bit harder that way. Alright, we're going to try this. I expect our opponent to win because they know what they're doing, because they play Doomsday, and I very rarely play Doomsday. And so far we haven't embarrassed ourselves too much, just a little bit here and there. Alright, turn 1 Doomsday. Or we could turn 1 Thoughtseize, turn 2 Doomsday. I quite like that. This is before they get to do any sort of Brainstorm to defend themselves, so I think it is the right way around. Orcish Bowmasters, Sheoldred the Apocalypse. Okay. I think we take Sheoldred the Apocalypse. So they've gone deeper into this sort of strategy than we have. I think if we cycle this now, we have a choice, or we might have a chance to draw. Okay, that's really interesting, isn't it? I was going to say we had a chance to draw the Lotus Petal and put our Doomsday on the stack right now. So we can play our Sheoldred, which will beat what they have in their hand right now. I think that might be better than trying to do a Doomsday line here, because that will beat our opponent's Doomsday lines. Brainstorm. Do I play around our opponent having a Daze here? Is the one card they've drawn for turn. We can play around the Daze and also get this Brainstorm off. Yeah, go on then. Let's play around the Daze. This card is so backbreaking if it resolves. And we'll cast this Brainstorm. And yeah, this hand's pretty good, isn't it? I'll put these back. I think that makes more sense. Now we have a Daze. So we can Daze like a Bowmasters if we want to. We don't really care about the Bowmasters because we just gain through it with the Sheoldred. Right, so we got Cavern, so we knew one of the things they drew. They named Orc with it. So we can't counter this. Okay. So put Thassa's Oracle in there. Cavern of Souls. And then, like, I think I'm quite happy just to do things with our Sheoldred here. So I'd like a Dark Ritual in case it gets bounced. Maybe a Brazen Borrower. And we'll just have a cantrip in here as well. Let's take Street Wraith. Right, so Thassa's Oracle is the bottom card. Next turn, I kind of want to draw this Borrower, I think. So we'll put this. This is a really weird pile that's probably wrong. But our plan is Sheoldred wins the game. So let's try winning the game. So this turn, I think it's alright to just serve in for 4. They can chump block here. But that's it. Right, we get their life total low enough, they just can't win with a Doomsday anyway. We have a counter spell for Sheoldred. Obviously they can still do Orcish Bowmasters, but we don't really care about that. There's the Underground Sea. There is a Thoughtseize. We know we're not drawing a land. Do we care about dazing this? Not really. So they're either going to get in for 1. Yeah, they're going to get in for 1, then block with the token. They've got 1 mystery card in hand. We draw ourselves a couple of cards there. We get attacks. So we're getting a couple of life there. We didn't draw a couple of cards. Right, so we're going to see the other Bowmasters here. Again, we're not bouncing this Orcish Bowmasters. We're bouncing the like Sheoldred if they ever manage to play it, because that's how we lose this one. Right. Bouncing the token here doesn't really achieve a great deal, because we counteract the damage they do to us just by drawing a card every turn, whereas they're slowly getting drained out. And we do have a I win the game button in a few turns if that's a thing we need to do. Weird game, but mirrors of like these hyper dedicated combo decks tend to be quite weird little affairs. In fact, a lot of mirrors tend to be quite odd. Thassa's Oracle as a creature to beat down with. Sure. That is acceptable. Okay, they chose one of those cards. Instead of, you can choose no cards and then let them all go. That's interesting. We can also use our Borrower to save our Sheoldred if that's a thing we feel we have to do. I imagine this Thassa's Oracle is just going to be chump blocking. Like, at this point, we may as well just sit back on the Sheoldred and let it drain our opponent out. Because that way we'll gain life every turn instead of kind of just making whatever life happens go up and down to the same amount. Edge of Autumn. Interesting. So again, a 9. Sheoldred the Apocalypse. We were prepared for this. Alright. So we can attack here and force the block with the Oracle. Is that worth doing? I don't think it is. I think we just pass and hope they don't draw a mana source. If they draw a mana source again, that's going to be a little bit annoying for us. But we do have an I win button coming in a couple of turns. And our opponent is hellbent. Right, we didn't draw a land. That's exciting for us. We can cycle this now to get a land to play the Brazen Borrower off of. That'll give our opponent 2 pings here. So they'll get a 2/2. I think that's acceptable. It means we're not attacking this turn, but that's, again, that's fine. Alright, they're going to face, so we could still attack if we wanted to, but I don't think we are. Play this on Wizard. And then we've got this Brazen Borrower as well. And if they bounce our guy, It doesn't really matter because we have the I win the game button. I guess they could have their own subtlety, but I'm not sure where they'd fit it in if they're also running Bowmasters. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right, we'll just block one of these guys. Our opponent's given us the GGs, but it doesn't necessarily mean everything. Right, our opponent has cracked their Scalding Tarn. They've got some mana here. So we can attack for lethal and also get them with the Thassa's Oracle. GG's opponent. That was an interesting one. Sheoldred is absolute queen and just bosses this matchup clearly. So pretty happy we did that and also played around the Daze. Made sense to me too. Alright, we are somehow 3-0. I'm muddling through. I feel a bit like Mr. Magoo. Just not necessarily knowing what I'm doing as I'm going along, but we're getting there. Okay, round 4, here we come. Our opening hand for round 4 does not have a starting mana source, so we're going to have to send this one back. We have the same problem with our 6-card hand, so let's go down to 5. Thoughtseize and Ponder. Something Island Ponder keep, I guess. I think we'll get rid of this. So this gives us the mana to cast a Doomsday on turn 2 if we find it, depending on if we're Thoughtseizing or not. We don't really know what sort of deck our opponent is. So the most common deck that starts off with Tropical Island Ponder is Bug Beans. So we probably just want to... this is awkward. Do we... I think we will cast off an Underground Sea. That does expose us to Wasteland. Daze, Thoughtseize. Any order, shuffle. Alright, we have another land anyway. We could fire off the Thoughtseize, but I'd rather fire off the Thoughtseize nearer to when we're trying to combo than just firing off now and then letting our opponent sculpt for a couple of turns. Green. Okay. They could still be Bug Beans, or they could be like blue-green Omnitel. I'm going to play out this Lotus Petal as well now. Just so we have maximum amount of mana to play around a Daze, or multiple Dazes. I think our opponent might be showing telling us very soon. And we don't have a blue card for this force. I'm going to see a Brainstorm to protect this. Oh, just a Flusterstorm. So we'd have to pay 3. Which we cannot. This also does confirm my worst fears. So we say no. Okay. So we have an interesting option here. We can fire off this Edge of Autumn, and if we find another Thoughtseize, we can cast it straight away, or we can find a blue card. But if our opponent isn't going right now, then it doesn't hurt. But we already have the mana we need. So let's sacrifice this. Personal Tutor. That is a blue card. So I think we are incentivized to hold this, because our opponent is giving us all the signs of being a show and tell deck. It's annoying that we have to lose our Personal Tutor, but we do just lose the game if our opponent casts show and tell. Right, so they can also do it around a Daze here. And they could have Veil of Summer up. Alright, correctly identify what they are. Can we Force of Will? We can. Okay. So this is where we just top deck the Doomsday like an absolute boss. It's close, sort of. But not really. Okay. Besage. Is this Eureka? The One Ring. That is certainly better than what we've got going on. Haven't managed to cast the One Ring yet this league, which is a bit sad. Alright. We got a lot of mana. Almost able to cast a Grizzlebrand. Not that we have one, but... Alright, I believe our chances of winning this game are like about 10% at this point. Alright, they're showing us the Volcanic Island. That's interesting. Because I had them pegged as just a straight up blue-green Omnitel. But if they've got red, maybe they're more like Sneak and Show with a green splash. They just happen to have naturally drawn their 2 drops. And their Besage. Although you're probably not running Besage with just a little bit of green mana. Interesting. Right, this Daze is not going to do anything. Our opponent will definitely kill us before the ring kills them. That's not really a viable way of us winning this game. Right, Ponder. Brainstorm. They shuffled off the Ponder as well. They currently have 11 cards in hand while they're resolving Brainstorm. Alright. Show and tell. Trexer. Sure, this would be useful information to see a lot of our opponent's deck here. This does look like blue-green Omnitail, but they've got Vesuvian Drifter as well. And there's a basic mountain in there. Maybe it's just like a straight-up like rug show and tell build that's doing more stuff. I don't think we're winning at this point. We do actually have mana for a Grizzlebrand now, though. But yeah. Okay. So this is a matchup where we're going to want some counter magic. I don't think we want Sheoldred. It's quite a nice thing to put in off of a show and tell, but it's going to be worse than all the things they're putting in, so it's probably not worth it. So it's probably just the Force of Negations that we want. How are we going to fit these in? Maybe Trim and Oracle. I'm not amazingly impressed by the idea of having Dazes right now. Like, they're fine and we probably need them, but they don't strike me as the most joyful thing. But I guess they're trying to resolve 4-drops actually, so they're probably better than I'm giving them credit for. I think we can trim a Cabal Ritual here. Probably trim one of our cyclers. Maybe trim Personal Tutor. Is that better than a Ponder? Yeah, Ponder's really useful for getting into your pile as well after you've made it. Alright, I don't feel very confident with this matchup. Okay, we can keep this. So we need additional mana here. I think step one here is the Ponder. We don't just want to get Doomsday in hand, we want to actually have access to the mana. Okay. That sounds nice to me. So put this on top. And this, then this. Okay. So we have Doomsday next turn. That's going to be quite useful. And we can pitch this Personal Tutor to the Force of Will. We also have a Brainstorm underneath. So Flutterstorm is actually pretty good here. And we know our opponent has Flutterstorms because we've seen them. What would they be holding up with one mana? I think we're just supposed to pass here, as weird as that sounds. Alternatively, we can Personal Tutor for a Thoughtseize. I do kind of just want some more mana. Top card of our library is a Brainstorm. That's quite a nice one to have. I think we're just going to pass here. And we can cycle the Street Wraith into end of turn Brainstorm if we want to. Maybe we should have done that earlier so we can have the second land drop potentially. But we've got some options. Ponder from our opponent, sure. Let's try and end of turn Brainstorm here. Alright, we've got Daze, we've got Cabal Ritual. We've got this land I'm pretty happy about. Do we need this Cabal Ritual? It helps us pay around some stuff maybe. I don't think we want the Cabal Ritual. So we can try for a Doomsday here. We have two ways of defending it. So Flutterstorm is very good, as we've established. But we will just Personal Tutor for another Doomsday if they do this. Sure. That's going to take another turn cycle, though, because we need to draw some more mana. Because if we use this Lotus Petal to Personal Tutor, then we don't have the mana to cast the Doomsday, so we kind of need to wait a turn. Ancient Tomb. Probably just going to smash it out straight into us. Alright. Let's say no to this one. We have a Flutterstorm beat because of our Daze on the show and tell again. But we don't have Daze from our opponent beats. Okay. So this Daze is probably not going to do anything this game. Unless we draw a Force right now. Oh, look at that. Beautiful. Alright, let's go and get Doomsday. So we've got our play for next turn. We've got a Force of Negation to try and get us there. And our opponent's going to have to rebuild and find things. But if they just drop the One Ring, obviously that's what we'll be countering. But basically they've got all the show and tells and the One Ring. We can't counterspell this. Right, things have gone difficult for us, I would say. So we draw this Doomsday we can't cast. But a Dark Ritual does let us cast it. And then we can do some things with some artifact mana. But if they have a counterspell alongside this, it's going to be very difficult for us to win. It's just tough. They've got like a must answer spell. They've got good counter magic. Sneak attack. Like, I guess we have to say let's try and play this game for a bit longer. A Dark Ritual or a Cabal Ritual does work here. The One Ring, that is something that could maybe pull us out enough. So another mana source would be useful. Yeah, I'd rather get the One Ring going than just cast a Doomsday here. Because then when we cast the Doomsday, it's going to be a lot better. Makes the Moon. Yep, I understand. We don't get to play lands. Well, we don't get to play lands that actually do anything. A Brainstorm. It's kind of sketch using our only source to do that, so I don't think we're going to do that. Not this turn, at least. I think we're very close to entering the scoop phase of this game. To be fair, our opponent only has mountains as well. But they have 4 power. Alright, I think we only have 1 Lotus Petal left in our deck. If we use this. But if we cast Doomsday, we lose. So let's put this on the stack. Our opponent will counterspell, and then we get to concede and move on with our lives. There it is. Alright, we got handily crushed there. Flusterstorm is such a powerful breaker in this sort of matchup. But the problem with Flusterstorm these days, where you don't see as much as you used to, is a lot of the combo decks are artifact-centric, so Flusterstorm only hits instants or sorcery. So it's very good against Storm and Doomsday, but because, you know, we can't fight over it or whatever. But then when it comes to all these artifact decks, like the Tony Scapone specials with like Transmute Artifact, or just like the Mono Brown Karn Forge, that sort of stuff, it becomes very difficult to leverage it in that much of an advantageous way. Like, yes, they will start targets, that's nice, but they can usually just bop you with a bunch of artifacts because it doesn't count on the One Ring, basically. Nevertheless, we have taken our first loss today, so let's go to the final round and see if we can get that 4-1. Into the final round, our opponent has a 61 card deck, which is usually a signifier that they're either playing useful spells or they're playing a deck that's got a lot of tutors, whether that's like crop rotation type things or Green Sun Zenith targets or something along those lines. I don't think we keep this hand, doesn't have Doomsday in. Okay, I will keep a turn 1 Doomsday hand. Opponent's gone to 5. Alright, so we want an Oracle. We want a basic island, I believe. Fetch with our Scalding Tarn. Then we probably just stack it with some cyclers here. And maybe we have a Cavern of Souls on the bottom, just in case that's what our opponent is up to. If they show us counterspell things. So, yeah, let's try this. So, put Cavern on the bottom, then the island, then the Oracle, then a couple of cyclers. Let's see if they turn 1 us. Uh-oh. It is the useful spells. Summoner's Pact. Alright, our opponent is going to try and win the game now on this turn, because otherwise they will lose. Right, so they've got the Wild Cantor. That lets them filter their green into black. So this makes black. They must have a Dark Ritual, I think, here. Yeah, there it is. Otherwise they can't really get up to the mana they need to do it all. Summoner's Pact. This will get them a Spirit Guide of some description. Pop out their graveyard here. Alright. This might be the quickest Doomsday video I've ever recorded, and not because we've just lost every game. But this matchup is going to be quick one way or the other. Right, anything weird in our opponent's build? We got Thassa's Oracle, obviously. Memory's Journey. I'm looking for Reanimate is the other card I'm looking for. I can't see a Reanimate in there. Okay, you can see they've got 1 card in hand, which is probably the Reanimate then. Alright, our turn 1 combo was not quick enough. I would like a Nihil Spellbomb. I would like these Force of Negations. The Subtlety is an interesting one because it does counter one of their spells after they put a load of effort into it. We're not really going to have the time to mess around with the One Ring here. We're going to want our discard spells and all that jazz. We're going to want our own stuff that helps us go faster. Going to want counter spells. Are we just... Maybe we're not even supposed to be a Doomsday deck for this matchup. Maybe we're just supposed to counter all their things and stick some kind of threat afterwards. Is that a ridiculous thing to think? Possibly. Get rid of a ritual. No, not the one. I'll get rid of the worst rituals. So we could stick in a Doomsday and an Oracle. So we still have it in our deck as options. And then we can trim like 1 Street Wraith one Edge of Autumn for that. So we still have this in our deck somewhere. Is this a really weird approach? I think it is, but I think it makes sense in this matchup. Because we just need to stop what our opponent's doing. Alright, let's try this. We have our one of Doomsday. We have a Force of Will. We have a Daze we can't do anything with, though. Is that good enough? I don't think it is. I think we use Mulligan. Thoughtseize and Daze. Okay, I think that's keepable. Because we also then get to Ponder as well. So we probably just get rid of an Edge of Autumn here. That's not what this is about. Right, let's Thoughtseize our opponent. So they have Undercity Informer, Balustrade, Spy. So yeah, that's kind of a problem, isn't it? So we're going to take this starting black mana, I guess, and try and strand them that way. I will use this now to Ponder, I think. Dark Ritual and another Ponder. I'll take that Ponder. We're going to need to make land drops in this game. We have gone for a kind of weird way of approaching this one. It's maybe wrong. So we know the top card of our library, so we'll shuffle that one away. Go for a Ponder. Any order and shuffle. Okay, we found our one of Doomsday, so that's something. So we can consider cycle pile, I think. Or we could just slam a big Murktide. But I think the Doomsday pile wins quicker here. So, Thassa's Oracle. Cycler. A Cycler. A Consider. We don't have another Cycler here. But we can just put something on the bottom of our library, I suppose. We don't have a second Oracle. Where we put on the bottom is unlikely to matter here, is it? Or we just put a Force of Will into our hand and just play a Murktide Regent game. But we're going to get rid of all these cards in our graveyard now, so that's probably not the smartest. So we'll get another Daze. So the idea here is we use the Consider to get through the Daze if we don't want it next turn. So Oracle on the bottom, cycle, the Daze, and the Consider. Our opponent has counter spells, but things like Pact of Negation, which we don't really care if our opponent fires off. Summoner's Pact. So they can pay for this using Elvish Spirit Guide. If we try and Daze this. But if they use the Spirit Guide to play the Wild Cantor, then we Daze that. And we get more resources out of our opponent's hand, and maybe that's okay. Or maybe we lose the game. Alright. We don't lose the game. Alright. I kind of feel like I want more Doomsdays now. Because we're not going to have the time to do the Murktide Regent stuff this game. So let's just put another Cycler in. I don't know if we want all these Personal Tutors though. They feel kind of slow. I'm going to try this. This has a piece of counter magic. Our opponent is mulligan to 6. Is keeping a piece of counter magic and a Ponder good enough for this matchup? I think it is probably acceptable. Let's see. Hopefully they go lower. The lower they go on cards, the easier it will be for us. All right. We can get Thoughtseize first. Summoner's Pact. They're just going straight for it. Okay. That could be our win condition. Elvish Spirit Guide has entered the revealed card zone. Summoner's Pact. Elvish Spirit Guide has entered the revealed card zone. Balustrade Spy. Pact of Negation. So they don't have a mana source here. But that doesn't matter. This isn't the one that requires a mana source, is it? No, so they're just going to do their thing here and kill us. Yeah. We don't have any graveyard hate here. Yeah, we're just done. Alright, we got beaten by the superior turn 1 combo deck. Because they are very much a turn 1 combo deck, whereas Doomsday is a little bit slower, how it usually wants to progress. But we ended up with a 3-1, which, you know, I'm pretty happy with. I struggle a little bit playing Doomsday, as you probably guessed. I can certainly see how this deck is smashing people in the hands of somebody better. Let's talk about the deck. So the one thing that I struggled with a little bit here was no access to Ideas Unbound, which we're kind of using the One Ring as like a slower way of doing that. So we have the One Ring in play it can kind of be an ideas unbound in terms of when we're going off, because we just Doomsday, we just go into our pile and we win the game. So that's what that's for. But it's also just a better card in general, and it just gives us another payoff to ramp to. So I do think the One Ring is better. But I did struggle building some of my piles, especially turn 1 piles, without having access to Ideas Unbound. That is a problem with me, I think, rather than the deck, and there were probably ways that we could have got around that. But when all of a sudden you've got these cards in front of you and you've got to work out your pile, it sometimes becomes quite overwhelming. And we did, we did win the games where we made Doomsday piles, apart from like when our opponent just turn 1'd us. But we didn't lose to our own Doomsday piles at any point in this league, which I'm going to count as a massive victory. So it's very easy to see how Enrichetta managed to play this deck to a challenge win. It's a shame we didn't get to bring in Darkblasts. I do like Darkblast. I think that's a pretty cool piece of technology. It's a little bit weird as a one-off because we can't tutor for it with Personal Tutor or anything like that. But I think it's still interesting, and I understand why it's in the deck because of Orcish Bowmasters. It's also something you can do in your pile where you have it as your top card of your pile. So you draw this and then you -1 their thing. Then you can dredge through your pile or whatever if you need to. Or you can then just start cycling cards from your hand afterwards. So it's kind of nice to find. But yeah, the list seemed very smooth. I think if I were to play this again, I would probably trim 1 Personal Tutor for an Ideas Unbound. But that's, again, because of my own inadequacies more than anything, I think. Only having 2 Thoughtseize in the entire list is interesting, but there's a lot of Veil of Summers around at the moment, I suppose. And having the free stuff just means you get to cast your things and then do whatever. But I think maybe Thoughtseize as a 2-of is a little bit lower than I would expect to see that in the deck. But yeah, I don't really have much else to say about this. It was Doomsday. We managed to correctly do some piles. We managed to win the games. We managed to get turn 1 blocked by somebody else. And we won the mirror, so, that must mean I'm great at Doomsday, right? Or something. All right. Not much more to say about this one. I think Doomsday is a very solid deck. It's doing a powerful thing. You win the game is a very powerful effect. And you get to ignore what your opponent's doing quite a lot of the time. And just sort of knowing the small areas in which you have to interact and how to beat that is really cool. Kind of reminds me a little bit of Oops All Spells in some ways, where a lot of the battle is knowing what your opponent's doing and how you're beating that, or how you're beating the things that they have to beat you, I should say. So there is similarities there, but then this is like a Brainstorm Ponder deck, so it does a lot more sculpting, and it rewards you a lot more for actually playing turns of the game than Oops All Spells does. If you are interested in Doomsday, by all means check out the video I've linked in the description where I played with an actual Doomsday expert, talking through all the lines and sort of educating me as we're going. And there's some pretty good Doomsday content makers out there that you can have a look at. And there's a Doomsday Discord as well that's well worth checking out if you're into this deck. But what I will say is if you ever want to take this deck to a big tournament, you really need to have the reps in. The skills for this deck, like there is a lot of transferable skills, brainstorms, ponders, force of willing stuff, those skills are relatively transferable from other lists, but the actual Doomsday thing is like a whole new world. Like you have to immerse yourself in it and learn kind of from scratch what you're doing, and that takes time. And this is maybe the 3rd time I've played Doomsday, and I played Doomsday with Death Shadow. It's like a weird thing that actually went really well. I might revisit that. But anyway, that's, I was struggling through this even after having a coaching session when we recorded that video. There's just so much to think of. You have to have so many different lines in your head about what your opponent's doing, and especially if you're doing it in the blind, how much protection do you put in your pile? How many turns do you want to pass? There's so many little things to think about, because you can basically beat pretty much anything with a lot of your piles, as long as you know what you're beating, and that's kind of the interesting thing. All right, I hope you enjoyed this one. And I feel pretty happy about how I finished here. So remember to like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out. I think at the time of recording, I'm just shy of 2,500 subscribers, which is what I was hoping to get to for April. So the fact that we've got to it before March is pretty good. And I'm very grateful for all of you who are showing me support. So thank you very much for watching, and goodbye. If you'd like to support me in the channel, please check out my Patreon. It has a free guide to budget turbo depths as well as 3 tiers of support. A low cost one that enters you into my monthly raffle for a free donation deck on the channel, a mid-tier subscription that gives you access to my detailed turbo depths guide that is updated every month as well as regular articles, and lastly the higher tier gives you all of the above as well as a monthly donation deck for my channel. If you're interested in supporting the channel this way, please check out the link in the description.